In this video we're going to be looking at the VPA vented 2-blade 125 grain head, all machined from a single piece of metal. We're going to look at the factory edge under the microscope. We're going to look at it through the sharpness tester. Already I can feel this head's pretty darn sharp. Let's see what we get for a weight. The 125 grain head comes in at 126. I'll go through the microscope to look at the factory edge. We'll go through the sharpness tester, and then we'll pair it up with the fixed blade guide to see if we can get it sharper than a razor blade. That's always the goal, to see if we can produce an edge better than factory, but also better than that of a razor blade. So stay tuned. Now we've seen the edge under the microscope, and it's not bad. I've seen far worse factory edges. This one feels very sharp. Let's test it on the sharpness meter. That's not bad for a factory edge. Now we're going to partner it up with the fixed blade guide, and we will do a little bit of sharpening. As with any head you would put in the fixed blade guide, the key is to have this edge parallel with the roller. Once you've got it in there, place it on the roller, tip it down. If you're able to see any daylight under each edge, or any edge, adjust until you have full contact all the way across. So when I tip it down, it doesn't sit high on either end. Now this is a unique head in that it's got two bevels. It's got the finish grind, and it's got this secondary grind which happens to match this facet, and that was clearly for machining, so that's a very shallow angle. The fixed blade guide hones at 24 degrees, so to verify that we have good cleanup here and that we have the guide in the correct position, since this is a new head, I'm starting with 800 grit. I don't need anything too aggressive. We'll put on the marker. 2 very light strokes is all you need. And then we'll look at it and see that, yes, we've got proper alignment in the guide. We're not leaving marker here and overly removing material here. So that's the reason for the marker, to tell you that you've got the head mounted in the guide. So I'm going to go ahead and sharpen this up until I get a burr with 800 grit that I'll feel on this side. That's my signal to flip the guide over, sharpen this side. When I've achieved a burr, I'll go from 800 to 12, 12 to 25, and then buffing compound, and then we'll come back and look at the finish under the microscope and through the sharpness tester. Before I progress on to any other grit, the signal that I know that I'm done sharpening on this side is the formation of a burr on this side. And if you can't feel it with your finger, a small piece of paper is a good test. So see how it's running into this brick wall? It's catching on that tiny lip. That's a burr And I'm going to link in the description more information on a burr so you'll get a better understanding of it. But now that I've got a burr on this side, that's my signal to flip it over and to start sharpening again on the other side. I'll sharpen on this side until I form a burr that I can feel with the piece of paper. Then that'll tell me I'm done with 800 grit once I've gotten 2 burrs. Then I'll switch to the next finer grit, and the number of grits you use is entirely up to you. On a really dull head, I like 240, 400, 800, 1200, 2500, and then finish with a buffing compound on cereal box cardboard. So I'm going to keep going through the sharpness, and we'll check back in a bit. The final step in the honing process, after going through all the sandpaper grits, would be to use buffing compound white or green on cereal box cardboard. In this case, you will use a rearward stroke only, a pulling stroke, so you avoid scraping the buffing compound off the cardboard or cutting the cardboard. And as you can see, it's already turning black. With the buffing compound final step, you will be creating a micro burr, but you won't even feel it with paper. So I'll do an even stroke count on both sides. And so if I did 10 on one side, I'll do 10. Then I'll cut it down to 5 on a side. Then 3 on a side. Then 1 on a side. And finish out with a burr that's incredibly tiny. Now that we've seen the edge under the microscope, the sharpness meter will give us a true test of how sharp the blade got. $129. That's pretty sharp. So that is sharper than a razor blade. How do I know this? Because I've put razor blades through this tester and this certified test media. Let's look at how razor blades scored. And the common question is, how much weight did you take off the head through sharpening? We remembered what it was when we started. It was 126 grains. We are still 126 grains. Now that has to do probably with the sensitivity of this scale. We've maybe lost a grain or two. I'm not sure that this scale is accurate to within that amount, but we've taken little to nothing off. Now again, this was a new head, so we didn't have to take off much at all to go from the factory edge to this edge. When you sharpen a head that's hit a rock or some rocky sandy soil after going through an animal, maybe you hit a hard bone, you put a nick into it, you might take a little bit off. You can always add weight washers to the rear. You can get those from Ethics Archery. You can get them from Three Rivers Archery. So if you dip below 125 grains, you can certainly add that back with weight washers. The final step, because this is not a stainless steel head, this is carbon steel, you will want to coat it with some sort of a rust inhibitor. These are my two favorites. I did a extensive corrosion study And these two and Frog Lube were the 3 winners. I'm going to link that study in the description below, as well as some more information on getting a burr. I'll link a video to that. But I'm impressed. These heads, they appear to be good steel, not crazy hard so that you can sharpen them. So they'll hold an edge through an animal, no doubt, but still soft enough that you can hone them back to beyond factory to a razor's edge or exceeding a razor's edge. And they're soft enough that you don't necessarily need diamond plates. You can use wet dry sandpaper and buffing compound on cereal box cardboard to achieve this edge. So that is the VPA 2-blade double bevel 125 grain vented. Thanks for watching.